Hello, wherever you are in the world. This is Andy Shepherd with another Your Success Now teleconference. This week's call is about accountability. Own up and blast off. Remember, if you've missed any of the teleconference calls from the past few weeks, just send me a message in Facebook or send an email. I'll give you full details on how to contact me at the end of the call, and then I'll send you the recording. As I said, my name is Andy Shepherd. I am a success coach, and my speciality is in transformation. One of my main expertise is in timeline therapy. I have been formally doing this since 2009, and it's been my privilege to work with hundreds of people to having better relationships, better income, and happier lives. As you may have heard, due to the success of this teleconference series, I now have my own AM radio show that with independent talk radio, 1100 KNFX in Phoenix, starting on Monday, July the 7th, from 9 p.m. until 10 p.m. Pacific. If you do not live near Phoenix, it will be live streamed. To get live streaming, just visit the site www.1100kfnx.com. As usual, it'll be recorded, and I'll send you the recording on request. So let's get started with today's call, accountability, own up and blast off. Accountability is something that can really help us, and lack of it can take us to an all-time low. Today's call is based on my chapter on accountability from the book Zero to Hero that I co-authored with David Fagan. The chapter is titled Own Up and Blast Off. Are you accountable for your actions and your lack of action? Do you want to be more persistent, more determined? You need to become more accountable. If you only have a small amount of accountability, you'll only have a small amount of success. The two are directly associated. So what is accountability? Accountability is about being obligated to do something. It is being responsible for whatever you agree to be accountable for. We are accountable to everyone we have any kind of a relationship, especially our friends, family, and business associates. It is useful to have someone other than ourselves holding us accountable, as we often forget or lose sight of our goals due to distractions of business and everyday life. There is a word for people who can't be held accountable. That word is prisoner or criminal. What can accountability deliver for you? When you're accountable, you are 100 times more likely to be successful. The opposite effect is also true. Throughout my life, I have done what others would have found impossible. How did I do it? I did it through accountability. So as I said, those were excerpts from a chapter I wrote in David Fagan's book, Zero to Hero. Some of what I wrote is a little bit shocking, perhaps, so let me go into further detail so that you can see what I'm talking about. If you are held responsible, you greatly increase your chances to succeed. Throughout this call, I will be giving examples. Hopefully, I will inspire you to try a few things out. And if you have any questions, I welcome them. I will be opening up the mics at the end of the call. So that's going to be in perhaps 50 minutes time, 45 minutes time, something like that. When I worked for David Fagan, we sometimes helped as warders at a local shelter. This homeless shelter was there for people who basically didn't have any place to live. They were sleeping on the streets. So we used to sleep over. And the people who stayed there were very grateful to us because they saw us as protecting them, basically living on the street can be quite a dangerous thing. I was in Ojai, which is a fairly quiet place, but even so, for their kind of life, it can be pretty difficult, though I know that in LA, things are much worse. So they're grateful to have a place to sleep over, to be fed and to be kept warm, and have the amenities that they needed. And because we were sleeping over, this was all happening. So they, like I say, they were pretty grateful to us. I talked to a couple of them. There were people who were regulars there, and so we got to know a few of them. And one guy, I had the actual courage to ask what had got him to be homeless, because he seemed a pretty intelligent guy, and he got all sorts of interesting things to tell us. And he said to me, well, he said to us actually, he said to David and I, that it all started when he had a car. He was paying for it with repayments, and it was a huge burden for him. He said it used to drive him nuts all of the time, worried that he'd miss one of his payments and he wouldn't be able to pay. And when he finished all of the payments, he decided that he didn't want any responsibility ever again. So he got rid of the car and he decided to live on the street. He didn't want to pay any bills and nothing again. So lack of accountability basically can make you homeless. So this is something to ponder upon and just think about it, because this was a real revelation for me to realize the potential of it. And at the end of the day, like I said, lack of accountability can make you a criminal or prisoner, because if you're not accountable to the law and to what society says is correct or isn't, then that's the consequences that you're going to pay for it. But it's much more than that. Basically, you can be a prisoner, and you don't have to go to a jail. You don't have to be between four walls made of bricks and mortar. We can all be prisoners by accepting where we are. If you're not accountable, then that is basically what can happen to you. So, the work that I do is to free people, as many people as I can, from the prison that they have made from their lives. So let me share with you one particular aspect of this. I see so many people suffering from what I call the it'll do syndrome. We are subjected to it'll do syndrome with our cars. I'm not talking, this is general, so please bear with me. So for some people, they just say, well, my car gets me from A to B, it's fine, it's a bit old and a bit tatty, and, the paint's not very good, and there's a few dents in it, and, well, sometimes it kind of breaks down, and I have to get the bus, or I have to get a friend to take me there. It'll do, it works more or less. And we take this same opinion with our body. We'll go, oh, it'll do. For my age, I've got a little bit of a belly on me, but, it'll do. It's fine. I mean, it's understandable because I work hard and I don't have time to work out. And, basically, I'm going to all sorts of conferences and I'm really busy on the road. And, sometimes I've got to go to Burger King or whatever because I just can't get some proper food. But, it'll do. For my age, that's acceptable. Or the job that we have, oh, it'll do. Basically, it's paying for my mortgage, it's keeping my kids in school, and I've got enough to pay for a few things. I go on holiday once a year, well, mainly to escape from, the fact that I really don't like my job and what I'm doing. But, it'll do. It's okay. It could be worse. I mean, just think of Timothy O'Reilly. I mean, he's got a much worse job than me, so it'll do. It's fine. So when we think about our significant other, well, she eats a few too many cream buns, but, when she's a little bit fatter than I'd like, and I wish that she would, be a bit more helpful to me and a bit more loving and kind, and I wish she'd stop shouting at me. But, she'll do. It's okay. I mean, I can't be bothered really to go and find somebody else, and, it'll do. At least I've got some company. That's fine. And what about our house? Well, there's a crack in the ceiling, and, it leaks a bit, when it rains. But, I mean, it doesn't rain very often, so it'll do, And, well, it is a bit small for the 15 children that I've got, but, and I don't like the colour of it, but, I've got no time for doing anything else, and I've got this job which I can't get out of, so, it'll do, it's fine, not a problem. And the computer I've got, well, I know it's all running Windows 98, but I can use Windows Explorer on it. It'll do, it's fine. So you name it, we do it. Now, I don't want you all to all get consumerist on me and go out now and stop listening to me and go out and burn a hole in your credit card. But I do want you to get to the point where you say that it will not do on things that are important. I want you to stop being complacent. I want you to stand up to your complacency and make a move for change. Accountability will help you to get to whatever goal you want. You don't have to put up with and suffer with the it'll do syndrome. As Tony Robbins says, if you don't like where you are, raise your standards. This phrase has really helped me to raise me above various stages of my life where I was literally doing it'll do. That's what was keeping me in Brazil. I think that I stayed in Brazil for 2, maybe 4 years longer than I should have done. But, I said, well, it'll do. It's a lovely country and friendly people. It's, sunny here. I've got the beach nearby. I've got a job. I've got some money coming in. It'll do. But then I got this fire inside me which said, well, it won't do. I can do much more than this. I can do greater things. I can go further. I can really make a difference for my life and for the life of others. It won't do became my new phrase. So accountability can help us in all aspects of life. It can make you a better mother or father. It can positively impact your career or business with an increase in earnings or profit. It can deliver a wonderful feeling which is attained from doing the right thing. When people hold themselves accountable, things become much easier. And if we are lucky, they become effortless. What happens when this is not the case? Here is a very simple example. How many of us have suffered after a party at our homes when no one held themselves accountable to helping clean up afterwards? I'll give you an example of this. When I was younger, my mother owned a restaurant, and basically we had this really big building. We didn't need to use all of it for the restaurant. The ground floor was the restaurant. So we had a middle floor which was used. One room had a yoga room. The next room had got a craft shop in it, and then at the back there was a walk-in refrigerator. And the top floor was like a living area where we could have some meetings, and there was kind of like a couple of rooms which were available for living. And actually, at the time, I decided that I wanted to live there because I liked being in the city centre, so that was pretty handy. Because I didn't need to worry about taxes or buses home, so I was living there. And I remember I had a very monumentally huge party. I'd made the mistake of giving out tickets to a friend. And because there was one night I got a week before when I was giving tickets out, and basically I was feeling really ill. I come down with a kind of virus or something. So I gave it to this guy and said, look, give it to some cool people. So what happened was he started inviting all sorts of people that I didn't know. And I think one thing that I made a mistake was I got free real ale there. And so that was a big thing. And also I said, hey, invite the buskers there. And so there was one room which had got the real ale in it, and all the buskers were there. And it was a pretty crazy party. I know several points I had to start clearing people out because it was just too many people. So anyway, by the end of it, eventually it all quietened down, and I think I'd made my excuses. Right, it's time to go to bed. I remember there was one guy who decided that he was going to stay on anyway. And he asked if he could sleep on the couch. So he did. I got a feeling there was probably a couple of people who stayed over. I can't remember now. I do remember the next day I got one of the worst hangovers ever. And there was one specific individual who kept saying to me, I can't believe that you're clearing up. I feel so bad I can't do anything. Make us some breakfast, will you? And basically, he was accountable for nothing. But what was holding me accountable was, I was accountable to my mother and basically to the restaurants as well. I mean, fortunately, I kept the party away from the restaurant down below, but a couple of the other rooms, well, you can imagine, it was pretty crazy. So I think the next day was actually my birthday, and I spent all of it cleaning up afterwards. And so, you could say, accountability is a bad thing because basically you had to do all the cleaning up. Well, I don't agree with that. I think it was good because basically I did the right thing. Another thing about accountability to bear in mind is another of my favorite sayings. This one is from T Fagan. He says, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you don't hold yourself accountable and you have an untidy apartment, for example, it is highly likely that you are disorganized in other areas. Most probably, the files on your computer are all over the place. None of your business cards from your networking that you've been doing are in order, probably. And how about your bank accounts? If you're not accountable, you've probably got receipts in various piles dotted all over your home. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Are you starting projects and then leaving them unfinished as you start something else? What is this costing you? And you need to think about what rewards you will gain from being held accountable by yourself or others. So you need to focus on something else. With accountability, we're focusing on the pain that is involved in it. So we work from pleasure or pain. So we need to look on the pleasure that we're going to get, what this could give us. So what I want you to do is hold yourself accountable right now. There's no greater time to start anything than right now. Don't put off anything until tomorrow. The only one thing that I'll say to put off until tomorrow is procrastination. Everything else we should start today. So how much is this all costing you? So let's look at it. Think about it. And I want you to do this as an exercise. I want you to go and get yourself, as long as you're not driving, okay, if you are, then okay, you can do this in your head. But if you're not driving, you've got no excuse. Apart from Brian Kelly, who I'm sure is listening, and he's working out at the moment. So you're allowed to do this in your head, my friend. Everybody else, go and grab a piece of paper and a pen. Keep listening to me. Go and find a scrap of the back of an envelope. Anything will do. And write down the following. So your business cards, they're not in the one place. They're not organized. So put a figure on what this is costing you in lost business. Put a number on it. Write it down right now. How much prospectively are these prospects worth? Okay? So let's think about something else to hold you accountable to. The files that are all over the place on your computer. How much time do you spend trying to find files on there, photos, videos, whatever it is? And how much time is it costing you because you're untidy? How long does it find you to find a document or something that you need, like your car keys or your cell phone? I see this so many times where people would just spend all of their time, they've lost their cell phone or lost their car keys. Well, I'm going to give you a very simple tip on that. If regarding your car keys or cell phone, you need to designate 3 places in your house where that can be. One of them is the pocket in whatever clothes you're wearing. Number 2 is maybe a bowl next to your door, okay, as you come in. And number 3 would be on a side table or something in your bedroom. And that is it. You need to say these things are not allowed in any other place. And then you'll not lose them. So let's go back and say, what is this costing you by not being able to find documents, not being able to find things on your computer? Now think about it. How much do you charge per hour? If you're a consultant, you're probably charging between $500 and $1,000 per hour. So just think about how much time you're spending. What if you're spending just like 30 minutes or something? That's between $250 and $500. That's crazy. So go on, be honest. Just look at how much time you're spending every day and then every week, and how much that is costing you in money. And I hope you're starting to get inspired to change and do something about it and hold yourself accountable. So, holding yourself accountable is good for you, folks. I'm not doing this just to be annoying and get you to do something you don't. So let's look a bit deeper on how to go about it. When we're choosing who should hold us accountable, we must be certain that they are going to give us the quality of accountability that we need. Husband or wife is good for marriage commitments, but professionally it would be better to find somebody more qualified, because there has to be risk and reward. How badly do you want it? For example, would you give up your vacation? What would it take to make that happen? A significant other often takes away our drive and is not good for accountability, because they say stuff like, oh, you've worked hard enough, you don't need to do that anymore, or you don't need to work out, you're so tired, no, you should go and put your feet up, let me go and make you some dinner. They really mean well, but this kind of interaction is really disempowering us and gets in the way of our achieving our goals. Typically, most people use a kind of a two-way accountability. This can be the fastest way to failure. And I know that sounds incredible, because when I started thinking about this, we're all used to doing two-way accountability, and that is the standard. Now, let me explain why I don't think it's a good idea. It works as follows. When one person slides and stops doing what they've agreed to and are committed to, then there is always the possibility that the other person could slide too. There's no security. I see this happening so much with people who are trying to give up drinking or smoking, or trying to go to the gym or run or do something to get fit and healthy. You have a greater possibility of failure many more times than if you're holding yourself accountable, because in two-way accountability, you kind of double the possibility of not following through on the agreed action, because there's the possibility of you not doing it, and also the possibility of them not doing it, and you add these things together. And also, it has a knock-on effect as well, because if you see the other person doing it, then it's going to destimulate you, and you're going to be less likely to do it, and that person feels the same, and eventually, boom, you're doing nothing. So, you're also thinking, well, if you don't want to do something, it's a friend, he or she's going to understand, aren't they? They're not going to apply pressure to you for you to go forward. You can talk them out of it if you need to, And we've all done this, haven't we? And basically, maybe you've fallen out with people who've held you too accountable, and they've, been really in your face about it. So it doesn't work very well. An accountability triangle, on the other hand, works really well. So if one person is accountable for a second and the second person is accountable for the third, then this can be highly effective. None of the people know what every other person is doing. They only know what they and their accountability partner are doing. Hence, they are less likely to slide themselves. So I'll give you another example as well. You can multiply this. Instead of having a triangle, you can make a vast amount of people accountable, make you accountable. And it costs you nothing. It's basically at your fingertips. You can do this on Facebook. So I did this when I was completing my Robbins Madanes coaching training. That's Tony Robbins and Cloe Madanes. This is how I got my coaching certification in strategic intervention and relationship coaching. So at the time, there were 2,000 people in a private members-only Facebook area, and they all held me accountable. I told them that I was going to complete it within 4 weeks. And basically, at that point, I think it had been like over a year, 12 months, 14 months, that was it. And I'd done nothing. And I completed an 18-week course in 4 weeks because I'd said that I was going to do it. And, I didn't, they all held me accountable. And, I did it. The other thing is recently, if anybody is watching me on Facebook, you'll see me with a comment. I say T25, week whatever, day whatever. This is basically an exercise routine that I'm going through. So it's 25 minutes that I do every day. And it's 70 days, the whole thing. Since I've been accountable on Facebook, every single day I put down what I'm doing. There's only one day that I've got off, and I put that down so that everybody knows that I'm doing it. Something, I've not missed one day. Many times I would have skipped a session. I was either tired or I just couldn't be bothered, or, sometimes we just wake up and we're just not in the mood for it. And accountability held me on course. I've not missed one session. I think I'm on day 64 at the moment. So, I'm going to do, and here's something that's pretty important. Soon, I'm going to start another 70 days because I'm not at the weight that I want. I'm losing lots of weight, and it's doing really, really good. But I just, I want to keep going with this. I'm going to do another 70 days. But I'm going to be sensible. I'm going to take probably a week off before I start again. Because if I started immediately, there'd be no turning back. And I just wouldn't be able to do it because, it's been a strain. I need to have a break and then start fresh. So we do need to have some intelligence when we hold ourselves accountable. We always need to set ourselves up for success. But on the other hand, we need to make sure that we're not lazy. So another possibility of accountability is via coaching. This works differently. There is only one way accountability. The client is not working to hold the coach accountable, so no sliding is seen. Another benefit of a coach is that they provide solutions where needed and optimize and help us remove any obstacles that may occur on the way. And yes, I know that there is some kind of accountability with a coach. Obviously, the client is expecting the coach to deliver certain things, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when a client is asking to be held accountable. Mentors are a good source of inspiration for how we should hold ourselves accountable. Mentors have already reached success by holding themselves accountable to get where they are today. You can learn a lot from a mentor by following the success they've had. I'm sorry, I'm working in these teeth I've got. By following the success they've had, we can enjoy similar success. Both sides win. As a former English teacher, I know that to really understand something, we must go in at a much deeper level in order to teach it. Mentorship works in the same way. A mentor has the opportunity to gain increased insight and mastery through his or her accountability. A mentor also works one hand up and one hand down. A mentor will have his mentor, which is the one hand up, and the one hand down is the person that he is mentoring. This is the way a chain of support is formed. As a coach, I work in the same way that a mentor does. I only talk to my clients about personal experiences, from personal experience. In the rare instance I am outside of my personal experience, I will say so. As I said before, this was an agreement that I had with Tony Robbins at Business Mastery a few years ago in Las Vegas when we were talking about it. And in no uncertain terms, he said that, to be a coach, that is something that's essential. And he was pretty strong about the way he put forward his opinion. And I took heed of this. So a powerful way to get accountability is by using a third-party trust account. You must do whatever you are holding yourself accountable to by a set date. Otherwise, the money in the trust will go towards charity. For some, this may be ineffective, as they may subconsciously want the money to go to that charity, and they wouldn't feel pain if it did. A bigger incentive to give much more impact is to set up the money to go to a charity that you don't like. So, for example, the money would go to, so for maybe a vegetarian, the money would go towards a butcher's retirement fund, or a Dodgers fan might donate to the Red Sox. Whatever drives us can be directed into becoming a strength and can give us the ability to achieve what we may have thought impossible. Accountability is a very useful tool for this. There has to be a consequence, and it's great fun inventing suitable consequences. Measuring is one of the most effective tools in successful accountability. If you are not measuring when you are dieting, you will not get optimum results. You need to measure what you eat, blood sugar levels, what exercise you are doing, and even measure your trainer. Is your trainer suggesting the right exercises for you? And you need to look and see, well, is the trainer actually qualified to be giving you the information that they're giving you? Are they an authority in the areas that they're talking about? By measuring, we can glean essential information. It will show us if we are on the right track. It will test and prove if outside help is effective. It will show if the strategy we are using and the way we're implementing it are effective or not. If we don't measure, you have no way of really knowing. And an aside to bear in mind, how is the coach holding himself or herself accountable? Sometimes we may not know. We can look at their results and see if their accountability has been successful. We can look at others in the same way, businesses whose services we wish to use, even down to our friends and relationships. I cannot stress enough how important the 5-friend rule is. This is, we are the average of the 5 people we spend most of our time with. Think about it. Would you be more successful if you were more accountable to yourself? Do you believe that you are accountable? In what areas? Is it sufficient? Where could you improve? And if you did, what would that give you? What would you feel? How would that benefit you and others? I've made myself accountable to being with someone I really loved. And that person was the person that I left the UK to be with in Brazil. And that was like 16 years ago. I left a well-paid job and my prized Mercedes, my house, my country, my parents, my friends. I held myself accountable to being with her in Brazil by moving there. After 2 years of trying to make things work, the relationship failed and had become very painful for both of us. I became accountable to my happiness and hers when we decided to part our ways. Though it is good to be accountable for doing things that benefit others, some people may find that they are doing this at the sacrifice of being accountable for their own needs. If this is done for a long period of time, it will be very detrimental for all concerned. We must be primarily accountable for all our own things and for others second. This is not being selfish. If we are not empowering ourselves and being the best that we can, then we will not be at our peak potential when helping others. I hope that's clear. If it isn't, then, I'll be opening up the mic soon and you can ask me questions about this or ask me questions about anything else. I started an English school in Brazil, which I poured my life savings into, and it gave me the opportunity to be accountable for doing whatever I took to make it a success. Doing whatever it took to make it a success. Originally, it wasn't successful. I worked 14 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week. I used to sit at my computer and eat like a lunch which I had brought to the school. I had 15 minutes to do it, but I was still sitting at the computer working. I held myself accountable to paying the bills and providing wages to my staff. I held myself accountable to not losing the life savings that I'd sunk into my business. It was all on the line, and accountability saved me from losing it all. Finally, I discovered the missing link that would take me from always struggling to pay the bills to having more than enough money to pay the bills and being successful, happy, and having fun while I was doing it. The solution was to work on my mind. I studied everything and everyone I could to better my situation, eventually becoming a success coach. I held myself accountable to helping as many people as possible, and what I had learned from coaching seminars and books, particularly from Tony Robbins, realizing that I didn't have an interested audience in Brazil, I decided to move to Los Angeles. This resulted in the sale of my school, leaving a lady that I was dating at the time, selling or giving away everything that I owned, and walking out with just what I could pack into 2 suitcases. This is the measure of my commitment and belief in accountability. I did the same thing when I moved from Nevada back to LA. I was helping someone by doing various projects and helping him grow his business. But I wasn't holding myself accountable for mine. I rectified this by leaving again with 2 suitcases and moved into temporary accommodations while I found a better place to live. So temporarily leaving all my stuff behind in Nevada. Such bold moves landed me my own radio station, so it's all been worth it. So that's the reward of me holding myself accountable, and that's just the start of it. All that I am and all that I have achieved and ever will achieve is direct consequence of accountability that I hold myself to. I once even gave up a very promising opportunity as it was impacting my health, diet, and exercise routine. I held myself 100% accountable to these key areas, so I declined the job. And that's not the only time that I've done such things for similar reasons. Being accountable has made me a stronger person who is in control of his life and destiny. Because of accountability, I am now a non-smoker. I don't drink, and I lost 44 pounds. I had a successful school in Brazil, which I didn't enjoy, and now live happily in Los Angeles. So, and soon I'm going to start my own AM radio show in a couple of weeks. So, for example, why did I stop smoking? I held myself accountable because I think I mentioned this before. There was somebody that I was going to start dating, and I knew that she didn't like me, didn't like smokers. She didn't know that I smoked. So I held myself accountable. I thought, okay, what is the most important thing to me, smoking or dating this wonderful woman? And so I decided dating her was more important. Drinking was down to accountability. I talked to a good friend of mine that I knew from Tony Robbins, who we were talking about things. And I said, what's the most important part of coaching? And she said, walking your talk. And I thought to myself, well, here I am telling everybody to work with their mind, but I'm drinking. And, you know, if people saw me at the bar, I mean, what are they going to think? This guy's working on his mind. Why does he need to be drinking? This is crazy. So, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having the occasional glass of wine or something, but I hope that you follow what I'm saying. The way that I lost my 44 pounds was I held my health and the way that I looked accountable to that. And, you know, there are times when you start putting the weight back on again, and so you're not holding yourself accountable anymore. And so these are the successes that you can have through accountability. I have discovered that the more we are willing to be accountable, the more that we do so effortlessly, joyfully, and without thought. The more that we are accountable, even when at times there is extreme discomfort and absolute uncertainty, the greater the benefit or reward that we can receive. I would like to hear how accountability helped you to transform your life. If you'd like to be more accountable, or if there are any other areas you would like me to work with you on, then it would be an honor to coach you. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to open up the phone and let's see if there's anybody on the line now, and if there's anybody who'd like to perhaps ask me any questions about accountability. So let's see. A question? Is there anybody who'd like to ask me any questions? Just going to hold the line open for a couple more seconds. So if you're interested in asking me a question, you've got a couple of more seconds. Otherwise, I'm just going to wrap this up. Okay, no questions, I guess, today. So that's great. So, great. Accountability is something that I can go at a deeper level with. Sometimes there's something deep within us which is stopping us from moving forward, from stopping you from being accountable. So that's something that I can work with you on, definitely to do that. So that would be a pleasure. So how do I work as a coach? Basically, I work in various areas. I release blocks, so we often find that there are blocks which have happened probably since we were in our childhood. This is when things go into our subconscious and we don't realize that they're there. As a child, we make a decision about something that occurs, some incident or other, and we don't really have the ability to think it through and to make a logical decision of how things should be. And this can have a very strong negative effect and really hold us back. So I work on people's timelines and take them back to that incident and do a way of integrating who they were before with the incident, so that we can eradicate that, we can put it in its right place and then move forward, not as if it had never happened. What actually happens is that we integrate it and we learn. There's often a lesson to be learned, and this is something that's really powerful and beautiful. And the clients that I work with have all gained something very positive, even out of something which has seemed very dark and sinister. Though, those are obviously, there are different levels of this. For some people, it isn't dark and sinister. We can work on accountability goal setting. So that's perfect, because once you've got your goal setting set up, then we can work on accountability, which I basically hold you accountable for. Now, I have methods of getting you to your results and goals very, very quickly. There is a science to this. It's like there are certain physical laws to like with chemistry and physics and so on, and we say, well, okay, in all of these circumstances, if you do this and this and this, then this will be the result. Well, there are ways of getting to your goal quicker. Some of you may know this as law of attraction. So that is definitely one of my big tools that I can help you with. I'm very good at pinpointing what is going on, and just by talking to you, I can see a pattern that you probably can't see and help you to move on from there. It's like a sixth sense to me. I'm often able to be able to see exactly what it is and move us forward. Well, I say often, basically all the time. I'm also authentic. Like I said to you before, I only talk about things that I've lived through, that I've got experience about. So I'm not going to just be talking in theory about things. So because there's nothing more annoying than somebody telling you to do something that they haven't got a clue about. They've just read it in a book. That's of no use to anybody. That is not what's going to happen. If anybody wants to contact me, then a good place is on Facebook. You're already a friend of mine. If not, then go to facebook.com//Shepherd Coaching, one word. Shepherd is spelled like the guy who looks after sheep, SHEPHERD, Shepherd Coaching, one word. You can also email me, if you like, on andy@shepherdcoaching.com. So, and I can send you a recording of this if you want, or any of the other ones. This is the 8th in the series so far. Next week, I'm going to be talking about goal setting into goal getting. So once you've set your goals, then I'm going to show you how to get them quickly. Hopefully I've inspired you all to be accountable. So look at the piece of paper that I talked to you about, see how much money you're losing and what the consequences are, and hopefully this will inspire you to make yourself accountable. So I'd like you to join me next week for goal setting into goal getting. As I always say to you, make today a successful one, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.